For those with ears to hear. The study of virtue and sin and of good and evil is as old as recorded history, but ask the average person about them and you may walk away less informed. In fact, the wealth of knowledge available in this subject is vast, but has been hidden from you for a very dark reason. In order to draw these things into sharp focus requires no more than a few minutes of your attention, and does not require any knowledge of the Bible at all. And with this we can set our compass to a true north and not be tricked into giving up our power. The study of sin was dominated for thousands of years by the Christian saints. These men of charity taught us that to sin was to take the natural, normal states of hunger, thirst, reproduction, shelter and comfort and pervert them. What is less known about sin is that all these sins share a common core, a source for which sin feeds. This source of power can be switched off, and you have always had this ability. But if you don't, you will always drift from sin to sin indefinitely. This core sin, from which all other sins base themselves, is arrogance. This false pride is what made the devil. As told to us, his arrogance had him banished from heaven, as he was put to work as an instrument of God to test the faith of all of us. We think we know the truth of good and evil, and trust in this knowledge to save us. We do not realise we have already fallen for the trick of arrogance, and so given life to the demons in us. This pride comes from thinking about our position as higher than it is, above others, and from this, a disregard of God above us. For if we continuously want to look down on others, we do not notice what is above. This is the same trick the devil played, feeding Eve the temptation of her pride, tricking her into arrogance with flattery. While bringing others under him with the promise of power, the devil traps those minds in a closed loop of damnation, forever longing for the things not theirs and chasing the feelings of being whole without the truth. They begin to dig out from underneath them the being of their existence, their health, their happiness, their focus, and their real power. But if a person does not feel regret, shame, or discomfort in their heart, then what is to stop them from continuing on this path? The reason for leading a virtuous life, as opposed to the sinful and vacuous life, first requires the spark of transcendent identity. A reminder that you are part of a story that preceded you through your ancestors and flows through you and your chapter in it. It is certain that to some degree those that came before you carried this torch of light. Without it you would not be here. You are the product of an adherence to good, or at minimum an acceptance of the good and evil dualism that transcends us. For without it, surely you and yours before you would not have come to life. While in the womb and through the first stages of life, you are at the mercy of others. Your mere existence as you read this is proof that these principles ensured your survival, at least physically. But spiritually, we lay in the crossfire of an eternal duel of spirit and void. Our ability to forge for ourselves that which we couldn't when we were completely vulnerable defines us and our legacy, be it gilded in light or faded in its rays, for we can now choose to carry it on forwards for others or discard it. If we stray the latter, we receive sickness and death at all levels of being, mental, emotional, spiritual and physical. As a product of sin, we invite confusion, turmoil, corruption and disease. Our willpower is sapped when we sin. Every time we do so, we make it easier to do the wrong thing again and harder to do the right thing. When we commit sin, we disorder our natural emotions away from higher things towards a scattered, unending mass of bodily impulses. When we sin, we dull the intellect, reducing the acuity of our senses and best judgment, as these faculties are bound up with an uncontrolled imagination. This blinds us of sin itself, causing a feedback loop of bad behaviour. The sequence that precedes and follows the purchase of pride in the mind is as follows. The disorder of pridefulness plants in a man all the seeds of sin. It takes the natural order of God above men, above women, and supplants it or subverts it depending on the sin. The germ of greediness grows inside him as the prideful man effectively sees himself a god, believing he deserves more than a man does. The germ of lust follows suit, putting the carnal desires of the body ahead of the duties of the spirit. The germ of gluttony likewise, consuming food and drink in excess of the simple needs of the body to suffice the spirit. The germ of wrath grows stronger as the disorder of pride lowers fellow man around him. The germ of envy is the same, making a man believe others are not due the things they possess, but he is due of theirs, only possible with pride. The germ of sloth is standalone. It does not recognize the order at all. It rejects it, disqualifying those with pride in mind and spirit. Pride makes a man gluttonous, envious, wrathful, lustful, slothish and greedy. These sins lead him astray, never giving him what he was really after, and he learns, often later in life, that it is in the virtues that bring him what he was looking for, and that from his sin he can learn of himself and humble himself with humility, finding in him the virtues of patience, temperance, chastity, charity, diligence and kindness. The truth is, to commit sin is a disorder of the mind. You quite literally have to misplace yourself in the order under God with pride to then sin and disconnect yourself from the way forward towards being truly whole. When the order is maintained, humility restrains pride and the sins from surfacing, protecting us from the consequences. The spear of humility cuts out the serpent of arrogance. This recognition of place in an eternal order under God does not allow for unchecked pride. If we think we can do this without God, then pride will sneak into our heart pretending to be humility. With humility under God, we cannot put our stomach above all else and stuff our faces with expensive or excessive amounts of food and drink beyond what we need, because with humility grows temperance. With humility, we are unable to disregard our transcendence and lie dormant or grow weak with sloth and perish without meaning, because with humility grows diligence. With humility, we may not cut down others with wrath to elevate ourselves above them, because with humility grows patience. With humility, we can cut out root and stem the impulse for lust and take back control of the eyes, as with humility we become chaste and steadfast. For without humility, we have as many masters as we have vices. So for this we can see our compass take shape to steer us upwards into our higher selves. This is not to say that life is without joy. We must still have a sense of our pride, to hate those that threaten what we love, to enjoy the moment with those we love, and to be content without complacency, or to be proud of our child for achieving something great. To be sure, it would be the devil's work to restrict us of the full faculty of character. This type of pride is motivated from within as opposed to sin's external motivations. It has a telic purpose rather than the transient or superficial. These demons of the underworld, a function of our base instincts, are permitted by God, for without them we cannot learn true virtue. For virtue is forged in the crucible of darkness. The study of this darkness is a map towards our light. The darker our path, the higher our possible station in the kingdom of heaven. The struggle develops the virtue. The faith in spirit grows in us the virtues as a product of seeing the bars of the cell we have manifested through arrogance. We must confess we have rescinded control over our senses and admonished our spirit to damnation. We must recognise this with a completely open heart, to have humility in our wrongdoing. If we master the willingness to suffer the tribulations of finding virtue in ourselves with grace and humility, we master every demon that holds power over us and attain the ultimate focus of will. For without humility, we castrate the vital energy and drive to establish the kingdom of heaven on earth. In the next video, how sin and dopamine are connected and what they don't want you to start doing. The whole anti-Christian establishment has been set up to take this power away from you. They do not want you to know this information. They do not want you to see your own cell. They want you humming away for the devil's temptations. It's easy to change. You might have already begun.